Applying Containment to Vietnam by Marcus Ford. Let us begin. Violent thoughts of containment in Vietnam began during the Cold War, as tensions from more superpowers like the United States and Soviet Union were slowly growing. This caused the United States to start exploring options to stop the spread of communism abroad. By consulting a diplomat named George Kennan, the United States endorsed a foreign policy that would limit the spread of communism to new territories and stop it entirely within the U.S. ideally. Who was involved? While of course there was the United States and Vietnam duking it out over ideological policy differences, there was others like China and the Soviet Union that supported Vietnam and the previously repelled French colonial powers who opposed Vietnam. The United States, fearing a domino effect of losing neighboring Southeast Asian nations to communist aligned forces, stepped in after the French were expelled by Vietnam nationalist forces. This would end terribly for the United States, as the Vietnamese had a home field advantage against the United States, who had unprepared troops and intelligent operators that weren't able to see through the Vietnamese guerrilla tactics and extreme dedication to their cause. Eventually, the North Vietnamese army would force the United States to withdraw after staggering losses of soldiers and civilians on both sides. But before we continue with the cost of this foreign policy fallacy, let's talk about who supported this imperialistic overreach and those who opposed it. Who was for it? European allies in the U.S. with the backing of 4 different presidents, that being Harry Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, and there was also organizations like the National Security Council and the Southeast Treaty Organization, or CETO. Under Truman, the government provided a convenient military and financial aid to the French, with his rationale being that with a communist victory in Indochina, it would precipitate the spread of communism throughout the Southeast Asia. With the same logic, Truman also expressed that giving aid to Greece and Turkey in the 1940s would help contain communism in Europe and the Middle East. The National Security Council included the theory in 1952, where in Indochina, that this decisive battle between Vietnam and the French forces of Dien Bien Phu, Dwight D. Eisenhower would articulate his theory of a falling domino principle. With this underway, the United States would later spearhead an organization called the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, whose goal was to lose alliance of nations committed to taking action against security threats in the region, such as Vietnam. Who opposed it? The Russian and Chinese governments had vested interest in the spread of communism to places like Vietnam to garner more support against the U.S. and also gain an independent ally in the process. The Vietnamese nationalist leader Ho Chi Minh, on the other hand, with his supporters, fought to achieve Vietnam's independence from France. By just assuming that Ho Chi Minh was just a pawn of communists such as Russia and China, American policymakers failed to see that Ho Chi and his supporters wasn't trying to spread communism. He was just trying to fight for the independence, and he had nothing to do with the money and technology that was being pumped into Vietnam by Russia and China. The cost of containment. The empowerment of communist governments like Laos, and Cambodia, an astronomical amount of lives, the U.S. image at home and abroad, and over $100 million went into this pointless ideological war but in the end, pretty much backfired on the US. Lessons we learned from it. Our weak ideological battles for control over nation states is not good. It's what would have been a good lesson for the US if they actually learned this from this experience. But rising tensions later in the Middle East would prove this lesson mute. Also, that strongmanning other nations might enrich them with support from your opposition, so don't do that. Just a thought. And here's my sources. I want to thank y'all for taking the time to watch my video, and I hope y'all have a good day. Bye.